So we are on the review for the mid-module assessment task, and I'm going to go over the answers. So we are going to compare all of these numbers using greater than, less than, or equal to. So if we look at our tenths place here, we notice that 5/10 is bigger than 2/10. So this whole number is bigger than 227 thousandths. Remember, the bigger side of the inequality faces the bigger number. Letter B, we have 4 thousandths plus 4 hundredths. And then on the right-hand side, we have 37 thousandths. So notice we can compare here the hundredths place. We have 4 hundredths here. We have 3 hundredths here. So 4 hundredths is bigger than 3 hundredths. Letter C, 27 tenths and 2.5. Well, remember 2 ones and 5 tenths is the same as 25 tenths. And we know 27 tenths are more than 25 tenths, so 27 tenths is bigger. You could also have said, well, for C, 27 tenths is the same as 2.7. And we know that 7 tenths is bigger than 5 tenths. Letter D, we have 3 times 1/10 plus 6 times 1/100th. Remember, you can use your place value chart here and say, well, 3 goes in my tenths place and 6 goes in my thousandths place. So I have 0 ones, 3 tenths. Notice I don't have any hundredths here, but I have 6 thousandths. So now I can compare my tenths place is the same, but my hundredths place, I have 6 hundredths. So 0.360 is bigger than 0.306. Number 2, multiply 5.55 times 10 to the 4th. You can draw a place value chart to help you. Notice I've already drawn mine so that I didn't have to spend the time doing that. You don't have to draw a place value chart if you don't want to, but you can. So I have to put in here that I have 5 ones, 5 tenths, and 5 hundredths. So notice there's a decimal point here. The decimal point is always along this line. Multiply by 10 to the 4th. Multiplying, I go to the left. 10 to the 4th says I do it 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have to move all of these 4 times. And then I have 0 tens and 0 ones. So my answer to number 2 should be 55,500. Number 3, we have the same 5.55, but now we're dividing by 10 to the 2nd power. So we have to move it 2 times. I don't have enough here. I need a 10 thousandths here. So I have to move 2 times. I get 0.0555. We are on number 3 on the back. Rainfall collected in a rain gauge was found to be 3.4 centimeters when rounded to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. Circle all measurements below that could be the actual measurement of the rainfall. So I'm going to put a number line here on the side. And so for the first one, we have 3.351. So notice I'm rounding to the nearest tenth. My tenth here is 0.3, so I have 3.3 and 3.4. In between 3.3 and 3.4 is 3.35. Notice here I have 3.351, so that's slightly above 3.35. So that means I round up to 3.4. So this first one does round up, so I circle it. Now I'm going to erase my numbers on here. The second one is 3.449. So my tenth is 3.4. And then the 1/10 more is 3.5. Halfway between 3.4 and 3.5 is 3.45. I have 3.44 4/10 is smaller than 4 hundredths is smaller than 5 hundredths. So 3.449 goes right below that, so we round down to 3.4. So this one also rounds to 3.4. So now the other two, I'm not going to use my number line. I'm just going to look at them and think about it. So my 10th here is the 4. And I have to look and say, is this 100th more than halfway between 3.4 and 3.5? Well, I know 5/2 is more than halfway, so this one is also going to round to 3.4. If I look at 3.295, the 2 is in the 10th place. My 9 is in the 100ths place. 9 is bigger than 5 hundredths, so I would round this one up to 3.3. But that is not 3.4, so that last one would not round to 3.4. So letter B says to convert the rounded measurements to meters. Remember when I convert centimeters to meters, there are 100 centimeters in every meter. So I have to think, how many groups of 100 do I have in these centimeters? So I always divide by 100 when I convert centimeters to meters. So for all of these, I'm going to divide by 100, which means that I am shifting my place values 2 places to the right. So I have to shift my numbers 2 places to the right, so I get 0.03351. 3.449 divided by 100 is 0.03449. Again, you can use your place value chart if you need to. I'm just shifting in my head. Now I'm dividing this one by 100, 0.03452. So you should have shifted all of these 2 places to the right. You're just shifting the numbers on your place value chart. Average annual rainfall totals for cities in New York are listed below. We are going to put the rainfall measurements in order from least to greatest. Remember, when you order from least to greatest, we have to compare place values. So I always look from left to right, so from biggest place values to smallest place values. So I can look and say, well, I have 2 cities that have 1s in their place value and 2 cities that have 0s. So I know these 2 are smaller than the other 2 because they have 0s in their 1s place. Now I compare their 10ths place. They both have 9s in their 10ths place. So now I can look at the hundredths, and I know Rochester has more hundredths than Ithaca. So Ithaca is the smallest number here. I'm going to cross that off so I know I'm done with it. Now Rochester is the next smallest. And now I compare the ones with the 1s place. Now I look at their 10ths place. Saratoga has 5/10. New York City has 2/10. 2/10 is smaller than 5/10, so New York City should be next. And then Saratoga Springs is the biggest number here. Round Ithaca's rainfall total to the nearest 10th. So Ithaca is 0.947. We are rounding to the nearest 10th. If I look to the hundredths, 4 hundredths is less than 5 hundredths. So I round this down to 0.9. Again, you could have used a number line if you wanted to. Our 10th was 0.9. The next 10th is 1.0. Halfway between those is 0.95. We have 0.947, so that's below it. So we rounded down. Write Saratoga's rainfall in word and expanded form. So our word, Saratoga is 1.5, so we have 1 and 5/10. Remember that and tells you the decimal point. And now expanded, you could have done it in either fraction or decimal form. But so we have 1, 1. You could have said 1 times 1. You could have just put 1. That's fine. Sorry. And then we have 5/10. So we have 5 times 1/10. Or instead of a fraction, you could have put a decimal. Either one is fine. But expanded form is multiplying your value of your number by its place value.